In this video, we're going to be discussing how to build and design your FlutterFlow app. So if you're a complete beginner, we have a guide down below we're going to go through today. And this is for you. This is for you to get a good foundation to build your FlutterFlow app. If you have questions and if you're watching this on replay, make sure you do hashtag replay in the comment section and ask any question. I'll answer all of your questions as we go through this. So to begin, we need to talk about what FlutterFlow is. FlutterFlow is a platform where you can build applications very quickly using no code. You're going to be able to create the design, the backend, all of those things in just a few minutes, really, when you're building this out. In more advanced apps, it's going to take some time, but you can do this all visually without needing to code. So let's go into the basics of what we're going to be talking about today. It will be broken up into three main components as we're going to be talking about this, okay? We're going to be talking about creating the user journey, and that's really going to help you decide how you map out your app and the design. We're going to look at mapping your design and then the FlutterFlow basic design options when you're building out your app. So let's begin. We're going to first talk about creating the user journey. Now, this is important that we're talking about the user journey before we get into building the application and going into the actual design builder, because we have to hit some basics for you to see what you're trying to build. And this is crucial. A lot of people just try to go into FlutterFlow without considering these things. So this is really important. Okay, so the first one is creating the user journey. What is the goal? What are similar apps you want to that you want to create? What functionality do you need in the app? What buttons do you need to do and why? Now, this is really important because when we look at designing an app, if you're trying to create a very specific app, such as a delivery app or a marketplace app, you're going to have different functionality that you need. So that's really important why you need to consider these things before you just start going into the building process in FlutterFlow. So for yourself, what is your goal? Write that down on a piece of paper or write that down in the chat right now. What is your goal of the app? What does success look like? What will success look like? Do they have to press a button to be able to get access to a marketplace? Do they have to access a camera? What are you trying to do? The other thing which is crucial, which I really bring up right here, is like, are there similar apps that you want to create? This is important because if you're trying to create an app that's similar to Uber or Instagram, they've done all of the hard work for you. You can start looking at the design and see what you like or don't like to really get a feel of what you should include for your own application. I'm seeing a comment, and thank you so much. Let's see, looking to build my first app. I appreciate the tutorials all the way from South Africa. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I'm glad this is helpful. So when we're looking at this, for what kind of similar app are you trying to build? What is the functionality? And are there very specific buttons that you need to do when you're actually creating your app? Those are things that we need to consider. Okay. And by the way, down below, there's a link that you can go through this guide as I'm doing it. That will help you as well. Okay. Now let's talk about mapping out your design. So you map out your design. Now, this is a similar one that we've talked about in other videos. So I want to bring this up again, and we're going to be mapping this out. Let's take a look at it. This is a micro SaaS, which is a knowledge as a service, a CaaS. Okay, so I want it to be a knowledge as a service. I need people to log in, be able to look at a database, favorite what they're looking for, and get a detailed view. So as you're looking at this right here, I've designed or I've thought about the workflow, the user journey of what's going to be happening in the app. You can be doing this on a piece of paper as well. If you're looking for a very specific example, like say, for instance, gummy search or get cyber leads, if I'm trying to imitate what gummy search is, where you can get access to all these interesting subreddits, I'm going to look at what do they do. They have to have a login page. From the login page, they're going to get, be able to search something like that. I need to know those kind of things for your own app. The same thing like for get cyber leads. They want you to log in and pay, and then you're going to get access to really an Airtable base. or a search engine for you to search different businesses and everything like that. It's loading. So if I was looking at get cyber leads, I would need a homepage, a login page, a payment page where people can pay me, and then the search, right? So if I go right here, subscribe, it's taking me to a Stripe, a checkout right here on Stripe, and you can be doing this all with no code. Once I pay here, it's thinking about its life, right? So right here, I'm paying. It allows me to see save 1,500 with annual billing. So I do this, and then it's going to redirect me to a Airtable base or a section where I can peruse and look at all of the different leads, right? So there's different sections of the app. If we look at our wireframe that I'm doing in Market Plan, I have the login page. I have a main page where the database view would be. I would have a place to be able to favorite and a detail page, right? And then a subscription page, which would be payments. So thinking about what you need to have in your app is really important as you're thinking about mapping out your design. What do you need? So like I said, look at examples from others. I just had 2 examples right here, get cyber leads and advanced search for Reddit, which is gummy search, but look for things in your industry or something that you're trying to copy. Okay, so we went through creating the user journey, writing it out. What does that look like? Designing your or mapping out your design. You can do this with any kind of wireframe. You can do this with Lucid charts or whatever. I just do it with Market Plan because I just like the basics of it, and I can create the designs that I like. But now it's important that we're going to go into the FlutterFlow basics and the design options as we're going through this project. Okay, so we're going to look at the basics, and then we're going to build out a page step by step. So let's take a look at the FlutterFlow basics. Okay, I'm going to go into FlutterFlow. So we look at the basic design. Now, to be building out on FlutterFlow, we're going to have really 3 key components under the build section. Remember, for FlutterFlow, we have a build section and a connect section. So just imagine build is the front end, the connect section is the back end. It's simplistic, but that's like the basics. So if we're looking at the build section, we have 3 different sections right there, right? We have the UI builder, the widget tree, and the page selector. So the UI builder is here. This allows us to build the UI. We have the widget tree, which allows you to understand the breakdown of the structure of the application, the visual application. So you see how I'm scrolling through this, and now there's different parts that are underlined. That's because almost just like a tree, there's a structure. There's the body of the tree, then the branches, then all of the leaves and the fruit and everything. So the widget tree is going to tell you how it's broken down visually and where everything's located. And we'll go into that in a little bit. And then the last portion that we're going to focus on today is the page selector. This is going to actually allow you to navigate to the different screens that you're building, Okay. So just imagine the build section is what you're going to be putting on the page. The widget tree is how everything's organized. And then the pages is how you navigate the different pages and everything like that. There is a 4th one, which is storyboard. But for right now, for the basics, we are not going to go down that route. We'll talk about that in another video. So let's talk about the build section first. Okay, this is really important. So the build section allows you to have the builder and then the elements. The elements allow you to build out the page visually, right? So if I'm looking at this, you see how if I wanted to add text, I could drag it and bring it onto the page, right? Or if I want to add a container or anything like that. This allows you to have the common elements of what you're going to be building onto the page. And then the layout elements that I would focus on right here, this gives it structure, right? So if we look at this right here where it says a container allows you to put things in it, right? So just imagine like a cup, you're putting things in the cup. To have it structured on a application or on a page, you're going to have to first have a container, and then you add things to the container. You can add a row to the container. You can add a column, and that gives you structure. You need to think about containers first, and then what are you going to be putting in the container over and over again? And that's the basics of the building blocks. Once you have that, then you can add different elements beyond that, right? You can look at the basic elements such as text, rich text, images, circle images, icons. And there are tons and tons of different elements you can look at, but I would really focus on is the layout elements, how that's going to give you structure in the basics, and then we go on from there. Okay, and we'll touch upon this in a little bit more when we do it from the basics, and then we'll go a little bit more when we use a template, right? Now, remember how I mentioned that there's containers, rows, and everything. Let's take a look at the widget tree. So we're going into the widget tree. Let me zoom in. I'm going to bring out the widget tree a little bit more. Okay. And let me zoom in. There we go. Okay, so you see on this side where I'm now in the widget tree, and when I'm selecting different things of the widget tree, it's now highlighting in the display section here what's happening, right? So this is allowing me to see how it's structured. And if you look at this real quick, this is giving me structure of how the entire app is created. So you see where I said there was a container? Look at this container. When I scroll over the container, it also holds a row, or it holds a column, it holds an image, it holds a row. You see how the container controls all of those things, right? It allows it to give it structure of the app. So when you're looking at this, this might look overwhelming if you're not familiar with like Photoshop or doing things in Webflow. This might look like, wow, this is a lot going on. Relax, don't worry, this is just giving structure of the app. If I look at this one, right now, if I'm clicking on it, that's allowing me to highlight the entire section, which is the home page itself. And then I'm going down into the different things. The hero content right here, then I'm going to be able to see what it contains in this section. If I look at where it says list view, guess what? It has all of the different elements that has to do with the list view. So this is, remember, the widget tree is just giving it structure. It's allowing you to visually understand how the app is structured right here. Let me know in the comment section if that makes sense. Widget tree allows you to get detailed view of what the application looks like. Okay. Also, too, the widget tree gives you more details right here of what it does. So it says when dragging and dropping, the color of the bar indicates how the widget will be added. Orange as a child, purple as a sibling. This really this has to do with like the structure of the elements. If you have come from CSS and things like that, those are some of the terms that you're seeing barred over here. If that's too much, don't worry about it. It's just saying how it's associated, how the different elements are associated together. Okay. Okay. Last portion before we start out and then just start building things up. Okay. So if we look at this, it says page selector. This is a template for a marketplace, and you see how many different pages that it created. This just allows you, and I'm a fan of this. If you're just getting started with FlutterFlow and you're trying to figure out and get your feet underneath you, I would look at templates and understand the design and then build from scratch afterwards. I'm a huge fan of building templates first so you understand and have something there for you to not feel overwhelmed as much, and then go build it from scratch. So when I'm looking at pages, these are all the pages that it comes with. And if we look at it, it says this is a marketplace. So the marketplace allows you to have a page where you book now. If you need to change passwords, the chat details, chat main. So just imagine if you're looking to create a marketplace, FlutterFlow already has in their marketplace for you to download a template that does all the heavy lifting for you. Then you can go and, redesign it, change out the settings, all those kind of things. But that's going to allow you to think about all the different pages that you'll need. So again, that's why it's really important. If you're thinking about starting out with FlutterFlow for the first time, maybe you need to look at a template or look at a past project to really understand how everything's created. You feel comfortable, start editing it, then build it from scratch. Okay, so those are the main components for building. Those are the main components for buildings. You can also look at the different themes of the app, and then also the settings. This will help you if you're already know the colors, the typography, the icons that you want. You can already have that already in FlutterFlow by just adding that. And then also too, when we go to the navigation pages, we have a section here as well. Okay. So now that we have that broken down, what we're going to do is start from a project, a template from scratch, or a template. Then we're going to go from scratch. Okay. Remember, we're going to go template first because I think it's a lot easier for you to see the structure of what you have before just building from scratch, but we'll go from there. Okay. So what I would do is after you create an account, and you can have an account for free, you can sign up for free from FlutterFlow. You go over and click the button, create new. Once you create new, you can decide to start from a blank app, or you can decide to pick a template. There's other videos that I break down how to connect the back end and everything like that. There'll be a link down below if you want to see this. But again, this video is all about visually getting the design right. So we're going to focus on that. Now, for me personally, if I was starting out from scratch, I would be looking at a app that I can start that is similar to what I'm trying to do, right? And so I can do this in a couple different ways. Number one, I can look at the different templates and look at what it includes, right? So if I look at Sniff Social, I'm thinking it's probably going to be something social, right? It says 19 screens, push notifications, custom functions, group chat, triggered animations, user-generated content, guaranteed smiles. I like it. So that would be something if I'm trying to do something more social, right? The other one, it tells me right here, 25 screens for Robin. It's a marketplace. If I look at this one, it's a marketplace. Let's see, components, new game. So I see that it has to do with something with games, perhaps. This one looks like your place for searching art. Okay, so more of like a search base. This is interesting. API request authentication. Okay, so maybe if I'm trying to just build out something like get cyber leads, if I just want people to query. These two would be, let's see, chat, 10 screens, Google Maps authentication. That's interesting. I might, if I'm trying to think about like fleet cards, if I'm thinking similar to like Uber or something like that. Geek, chat, again, chat, Fin Wallet, Health AI, to do app, right? So this will allow you to think about what kind of apps that you're trying to create. I'm going to go with just a simple Robin jobs. It's probably going to be similar to like TaskRabbit or something. So I'm going to use the sample here. I got to think about this. I'm going to say TaskRabbit beta. I'm going to name it, and then I'm going to use the sample. It's going to think about its life for a moment. Now, also here, it's going to say, do I want to set up Firebase? Right now, I'm going to skip it, but there's a whole video to go step by step how to set it up. If you want it, there'll be a link down below. So I'm going to skip it for right now. Okay, this is just for us to get our bearings for design. So as we're looking at this, right, I now see the page layout. I'm under the UI builder, so I can see this. If I go to the widget tree, this now allows me to see the breakdown of this page, right? So if I look at this is the whole page. If I look at container, right? Container background image, look at what it's highlighting. It's highlighting the whole back right there. The column, I'm getting column, it's one column. And then where I'm seeing it for row for logo container, I see. And if I click on it, I can see the logo container. If I click on logo, now I see the logo right here, right? And then when I have the logo, I can either on the detailed section of the image, I can change it. I can do all of these things. But again, I am controlling that element, right? So you saw how it was getting less transparent right there. That's because I'm clicking it and then looking over from there. When I'm looking at the welcome section, I'm seeing the container. It says welcome back. I'm seeing how it's a column, and then the welcome section right here, and then text. So again, this gives me structure to understand, okay, if I'm trying to create a welcome page, this is what I'm going to need. And again, if this is a type of app that I want to use and change, I can start here. Okay. So I'm just going to give an example of this. So I'm right here with the container background image. I can see it right here. I can click on it. I can see this. I can see the logo. And then I can start understanding how this is put together. All right. I can scroll down, see on the detailed section of the column what it contains, what's happening, all of those things. Let me know in the comment section if that makes sense. Okay, let's go to another page. So as we're looking at this page, this is going to allow us to see the different pages that this app has. For example, create a job, create a profile, all of those different things. Okay. All right, so that's going to give you the basics. The other thing someone was asking me in the chat, they were asking, what about the nav bar? Great question. Okay, that's a whole section to think about. But if you want to know about the nav bar and how to have it, it's going to be in the FlutterFlow documentation, but we're going to go through an example and then build this from scratch so we can see it. So let's go here. Let me go back. Let me refresh the page. We'll answer the nav bar, and then we'll talk about it building from scratch, visually, and all those things. If people have questions about Figma and all of those other things, we can talk about it as well. But that's, yeah, we can talk about Figma in a little bit, if that's a question that people have. Okay, so say, for instance, we're back in the marketplace that we use the template. If we're looking for the nav bar and what it would look like, I'm going to go to pages. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm going to go to the main homepage, I believe. Yeah, main homepage. Okay, yeah, main homepage. And as I'm looking at the main homepage, now that I've gone to the page, I'm going to go into the UI builder and I'm going to look at the page, right? So if you look at the page, I have the builder here. And then also, if I'm looking at the nav bar, some people might ask, okay, how do I create this nav bar that will sit on the main page or anything like that? If you're going to do that, you're going to be going to settings at the bottom, settings, and then we're going to go to nav bar here. And this is going to give you all the different settings of what you're going to be doing on the page. For example, look at the layout. It says layout right here. It allows us to have options of the different layouts that we want, right? But also, it's allowing us to reorder the page icon. So you see from here, the bottom is having the home page on the left, the trips, which would be the hamburger model, pretty much they say, or just the lines, the display lines. We have the chat and then the icon. And you're seeing right here, if I wanted to, we could reorder them if you want. You see how it's different at the bottom. Now, this is important because once we have the nav bar, then when we have on the page that we want, it will associate with whatever nav bar that we already made it happen, right? So we first need to decide what kind of navigation bar do we want, why do we want it, and then when we're having it here, then we can actually have the nav bar that we want. Let me know in the comment section if that makes sense. You have to create the navigation bar based on the pages that you've created. So you need to plan out how many pages do you want on the nav bar. You could have 4 or less, but you need to also create those individual pages for it to navigate to it. So for example, if you want a nav bar that says, you know, I want chat. Well, if you don't have a page for chat, you can't link it, right? So you need to have the corresponding pages, and then you're going to be adding them down here. Let me know if that makes sense. Remember, the documentation going through all of the different nav bar, and we can do this in a video if you want. This will break down how you're adding a navigation bar, enabling the navigation bar from the setting, being able to preview the changes, all of those things. But what I would really encourage you to do is, instead of just thinking like, I need a nav bar, write down this is why it comes down to the design. What's going to be on the nav bar? How many pages do you need to navigate to? because a lot of people sometimes on the nav bar at the bottom, they might have like 7 pages you navigate to, but that could be a problem depending on the app or the behavior. A lot of times, especially think about on Instagram or whatever, there's probably a limited amount at the bottom that you really want on the nav bar. If you have too many, it might be overwhelming, and less is best. You want to start with less buttons at the bottom for the nav bar and then add more based on it. Remember, especially if you're creating your first app, you want to make sure that it's as simple as possible. And this goes back to it. Look at different applications that you like using or apps that are in the niche that you're trying to build, and then look at what buttons they're using. Then come back to the navbar documentation for FlutterFlow to be able to add it. Okay, so there's one other thing I want to mention before we go any deeper, and then we'll build from scratch. There's another video from FlutterFlow University, Intro to Design Systems. It's a really good first part, but what I find is a lot of people look at it, or I've had comments where people are like, well, I'm not ready to build components or custom components. That just means they encourage you to build reusable sections of the app so you can build a lot faster. But when you're first getting started with your app, a lot of people, they get too overwhelmed. They just go into the weeds of trying to build these components without first thinking about, first of all, who's going to be using your app? Does anyone care about your app? What does your app ultimately do? Build the first version, then think about the reusable components and everything like that. Okay, so that's another video, but again, think about starting, using a template, understanding how it's designed, think about what you like. You can always use it as a guide or create pages off of it, but start from there. Then, if you want to start from scratch or create a new page after you get a template, you can be doing that as well. So, we're going to go into like TaskRabbit beta for a second. This is when we had something similar to TaskRabbit. We had a bunch of different pages right here, right? So, the pages are here. Once I'm under there, I'm going to just say new page. Okay, so here it allows me, when I'm creating new page, it allows me to think about a blank page, an AI gen page, interesting, onboarding, and also like all the different styles of onboarding here. So this allows you to, again, it allows you to do a lot of the heavy lifting here. The AI generated page will allow you to, again, AI is going to assist you. I'm going to do a blank one, and then I'll do the AI generated page. So let's start with a blank page. I'll just say testing, new design. I'll create a page. Okay, so when we're creating a new page, right? Right here, this is a brand new page, testing page. We see it at the bottom right here. It's saying drag elements into the column. So let's go over here to build, and I can start building this page out. Now, if you're looking at this, look, it's already given me some structure to this, right? So the main page where the app page is right here. The column is everything here. So it's already built out the column for me. So let me try to put in, let's add a row. Add a row. And then the row is at the top. So you see how I dragged it in the column and now the row is there. I'm going to bring in text, and I'm going to put the text right here. And it says hello world. Now, if you look at this right here, you see how I'm in the row and now the text is right there. So the text is here. The text, if I want to change it on the right-hand side over here on this side right here, where it says hello world, I can now change it. I can change it from hello world to I like pie. Okay? And then that's going to be the header right there. I can see if it's going to be conditional or not. I can look at position, anything like this. So imagine, remember, you're working from left to right when you're building out visually with this application. I'm taking an element from the build section, I'm dropping it in. The widget will then show up, so it's mapping out how the page is structured. I see it in the middle, and then on the right-hand side, I can now give it more details here. I can go with position. I can change the text or anything like that. What if I want it to be larger? I can change the font family here. So I did the theme text, changed it. I can say the weight of it. Let's make it bold. You see how it's now being bold, right? Let me zoom in. You see how it's bold. It says I like pie, right? So if I change it, medium, right there, style, all of those different things. Font size, let's make it 32, right? Primary text, all of those things. Let's see if I want to make it in the middle. I could change the text align, or also too, if I'm like, wait a minute, I need the positioning changed, I can change the padding and things like that. So like say for instance, I want to unlock and I want to do left. I'm going to do like 50. And you see right here, I can change the positioning in the row, right? So if I do the padding, 0 padding, if I do 100 padding, it's now changing where it's going to be located, right? And change it out from there. Okay. And then I can do alignment and all those things. So remember, you're thinking about this from left to right. Okay, so we have that. That's great. Um, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller here. Say, for instance, I want to add a card, right? So I can add a card here, and now I can have a card and do things here. So remember, you can do a lot of different things with this. You can add tons of different things, but think about what does your page need to have, and then start creating from there. Think about your design. What does the page actually need to have? And then go from there. If you feel overwhelmed by this, remember that's why it's really good if you have a template, excuse me, because then you can go to the template or see a version of what you wanted to do and then edit whatever page you want. Okay. Remember, just because a template has a bunch of different pages doesn't mean you have to use all of those pages, right? But it gives you a lot of different options if you do want to start using these kind of things. Okay, let's go with one more. We're going to create a page. We're going to create a page. We're going to use AI, right? So we clicked create a page. I'm going to generate a page. I'm going to generate the page and I'm going to say, I want a marketplace homepage where I can sell teddy bears. Gonna see if that works. Right. So I would like a marketplace homepage where I can sell teddy bears. Okay. I'm gonna say generate. It's gonna think about its life for a moment. David, thanks so much for being here. Here from Nigeria. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time. And let me know, David, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. It's great to see you. All right, so we're generating the page right now. Just thinking about its life. It might take a couple minutes. Wish I had some background music for a second. And remember, right now, because FlutterFlow AI Gen is in alpha, you have I think you can generate up to 5. Oh, look at this. Look, so I would like a marketplace. This is what it created. Look, this is a marketplace right here. So you see how it just made a color palette for me, right? So I can change the color palette if I want. I actually like the first color palette. Then I can change it to being dark mode or light mode. And they're saying, do I like this? I'm first going to say, I love this. This is so cool. Okay. And then I'm going to insert the page. So you saw what I just did. I mean, you just saw it in real time, right? How just building this out. I'm going to insert this page. I'm going to say marketplace panda, teddy bear. I'm going to say panda page. Red panda page. Okay. So it's thinking about it. Okay. And it just made this marketplace page for me. So a lot of people might be like, hey, listen, Doc, like I don't feel like I don't know about the design, building all this. Guess what? I just did it with AI and just built this out. Right. So again, and I don't want to say it's the best thing, but for what I want and for it to get structured, I think it looks pretty great. Let me know in the chat section down below. Look, it even created a component. Let's take a look at the widget tree to see how it built the page out. So it built out the page, column, container here. So it made the icon so for you to be able to search all of those things. Gave me a couple different options right here. I think that looks pretty great. I think that looks really, really great. Let me know in the chat section. Okay, so again, just something to show you again, if you're trying to design and you're thinking about, well, I don't want to design from scratch, you can always use a template, or you can, again, just like we did, we just used AI Gen and just created the page. Yeah, it looks pretty beautiful. Yeah, David said that. Yeah, I mean, look, it just did that. Of course, I'll have to go in and change some things, but like, think about it took me less than what, 3 minutes. It's allowing you to generate up to 5 pages per day, and then it resets. So it's giving you a limit. So I would say plan out what kind of pages you want per day, and then go from there. But again, I think that look really, really good. Okay, let me know if you have questions in the chat down below. Remember, the link is down below if you want to get this guide, how to use FlutterFlow and everything like that. Let me answer some questions real quick. So, Truth Fewest is saying, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, Noah AI is coming soon. So let's talk about this. What do you think about Noah? Am I saying it right? Versus FlutterFlow. Okay, so if you've been on my channel, you see that I do a lot of comparison videos in the past. So the question is, before we even go like the comparison, is what are you trying to build? No builder, FlutterFlow, Bubble, Softer, Glide, rest in peace, Honeycode. No one is the all-in-one. Builder isn't the all-in-one. It depends on what you're trying to create. So the functionality of the application that you're trying to build in the platform is really that's what it's going to determine on that. FlutterFlow is not great for everything. Buildbox isn't great for everything, but I feel that a lot of platforms are very proficient or great depending on what you're trying to build. So, truth, I would write down first, what are you trying to build? And also, too, if there's the flip side, some people ask, like, but I'm just a builder. I want to learn or hone my skills based on a certain platform so I can get paid and I'll be an agency and everything like that. Still, I would say, what kind of clientele do you want? Do you want to have mobile first and you want to build applications for Google Play and the Apple Store, things like that? Do you want to build games? What is your interest? Do you want to just build automation? I would go there first instead of thinking about like what is a comparative thing. I will say in general, based on features like and pricing, sometimes if I compare the two, but like that would be the overall conversation before going like versus like head to head. So if I'm looking at this, right? If I'm looking at this, I'm going to say, okay, create top class apps visually with no limits. Okay. Very common. I've seen this a couple times. So never accept compromises, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So I have a design, da, 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 da. Okay. Same power code, no code. Okay. So I'm looking at this. Okay. I'm seeing still code similar to if I'm looking at FlutterFlow, Flutter base, da, 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 da. I think, did Noah come on Appsumo recently? It reminds me. It's like I've seen this before. Okay. So if I'm looking at this, I would look at, first of all, what am I trying to build? If this is great for me, what makes this different? Then I would look at the documentation. So truth, are you asking responsive cross-platform? Are you asking about that's what you're looking for? Or you're saying some of the benefits of this? Then I would look at documentations of like, what am I trying to do? Right. So am I creating an app with a lot of, I have to do a lot, very specific things with webhooks, APIs, things like that. What am I trying to do? Those kind of things. I thought I saw this. Yeah, this is on Appsumo. I was wondering about that. I was like, wait, I just saw this. Um, so it's on Appsumo for 39 lifetime, right? So if I'm looking at this, I would say, okay, this is a good step. I would also find out what's going on with the team, how fast they're building, all of those things. Let's see, unlimited, blah, 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 blah. Export, Flutter base, da, 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 da. Okay, so I'm looking at the licenses, use on web and desktop. Yeah, again, and if I'm seeing at the prices, the different, oh, did it end? Yeah, so it was here and then it's not on AppSumo anymore. I would look at the tiers, all those things. It's interesting. I would just say, okay, where are we looking at this right here? Yeah, same thing, Truth. Yeah, it's not bad. I haven't seen anything that's out of this world that, um, I would say I would love to see people and their team and what people have built, what kind of businesses. Um, but I don't see it being a bad thing. I'm always like, what I would really look at the community. I mean, one of the biggest things with Flutterflow and Bubble I'd look at is how fast is their community building, how supportive, what I'm trying to build, um, different examples of the apps are already out in the wild, and then go from there. Yeah. The pricing looks, I mean, I would have loved to do the LTD. This is 1949. Okay. You can download code at 19. Yeah, cool. So it's a possibility. I would probably just be looking at the community, what's going on, how is this different, and then go from there. Yeah, let's see. Uh, where can I really learn the logic? Where can I really learn the logic? The condition state of Flutterflow, that's really my problem, and I'm the UI now. I'm good at the UI now. Go check out Paul No Code. Um, I like a lot of his stuff. I'm promoting one of his courses actually. I'll send you a link. But Paul's pretty much the man with that. Um, yeah, Paul's awesome. See, I'm not really a full tech guy, but the if else statements still confuse me. Gotcha. Yeah. Paul's awesome with that for deep diving into what to do with Flutterflow. I would also too. I would also say this: if you're thinking about the logic, write down on a piece of paper, write down the logistics, write down what you want the application to do. And when I say that is, or why I'm saying that is, then when you're talking to ones like Paul No Code, or if I don't usually go do deeper dive tutorials like that unless it's like straight automation, if it's using like Pipedream or Make and things like that. But Paul would be great at that, at this for Flutterflow. I'd write down the logic of what do you want the app to do? So if I click this button, what do I want to happen to the search engine or to happen to these options? If I do this, what do I want to happen? Write that down, and then that will help you when you're building out the relations and everything like that. Um, hey, what's going on? Thanks so much for being here. Let me know. What is it now? Let me know what you're talking about. Oh, no, I'll put it in the chat. So, and that's the main thing I would look at. That's what the main thing I would look at, um, with the conditional thing. So you're asking, yeah, conditional state. Oh yeah, conditional state. So again, if I'm looking at that, if I'm even before I look at like Paul's stuff, right? Paul's awesome. I'll link him in the. Um, Let me go into this conditional. Okay, conditional logic. So that's why I'm like, are you talking about conditional logic, conditional visibility? What are we looking at? So if I'm looking at this real quick, before I go into like conditions and all these things, the equal to all of those things, I would literally, let me pull up another page of way too many workspaces. Okay, so I'm going to make a new workspace. I know some people in Notion are like crying out in pain. I have all different works spaces. Basic logic for Flutterflow app design. Okay, so first of all, it'd be great if I spelled logic right. So the first part is when I'm looking at this, I got you. I got you. Um, the first thing is if I'm looking at this right here, let me go back. Where's my documentation? Okay. And I think, David, you're talking about conditional logic, right? So if we're looking at this, right, I'm just going to put this down. Conditional logic. First, I'm going to say, what am I trying to do? Okay. So on the page where I'm going through this, all these things, what's happening? What am I trying to do? Now, the next portion that I'm going to be thinking about as I'm looking at this is I'm going to be thinking about, and this is going to be on the right side of the page, what I need the actual element or any component of the app to do when it's tapped or different things that are happening. So if you're looking at this and it's saying setting a variable, you're going to have different conditions, all of those things. But what I find is a lot of people get really hung up and overwhelmed by this section right here by not having it written out first what you want to happen on the page and what you want the logic on the back end to do when this is now clicked. I would do that, or I would think about that, because trying to do it visually or getting into this section on the right hand side, you're like getting in the weeds. Let me know if that makes sense. But that's why it's going to be really important to think about as you're progressing through this, to make sure that you've got it figured out what you want to do and then go from there. What in the world? Mark, thank you so much for being a member. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm switching setup so I don't have a sound effect when it's going off, but thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate all the support. If you have any questions, let me know. And again, thank you so much for joining. Because you are a member, you're going to get access to our guides. We also allow you to ask questions, where we do weekly AMAs only meant for members. So you get access to all of that coming up. So again, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate you. Okay, that was helpful. That was helpful. Thank you so much, David. Okay. Okay. The other question is, let's see, is Noah like FlutterFlow, meaning you can build apps by dragging and dropping? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You can, but I always say, like, there's a lot of drag and droppers out there. There's a lot of drag and droppers out there. So I'm always like, it might be, you might go down a rabbit hole of all these different types of builders. I would focus on what that functionality is. Tanisha, am I saying right? Tanisha? Well, thank you so much for the question. But yeah, if you want to try it, it will be similar to FlutterFlow. It's using, it's built on Flutter, it looks like, the documentation, or it will be able to spit out code because it's built on top of that. So it'll be similar. I always look at, there's tons of different ones out there that could work. Look at what you need it for, and it could be an option. Let's see, Tita. Let's see, Flutter. Tita changed their name, but we're doing a video about with Tita in a second too. Awesome. This other thing, I mean, and we're actually doing a whole breakdown of like Tita and why this is actually something possible as well. This is like in connection with FlutterFlow as well, but the creator, she's great. She's done a lot with she's a teacher with Flutter, so at a university. So this is another option. But again, when you're doing drag and droppers, there's so many drag and dropper. I mean, I can think of like Clutch. There are so many out there. I mean, if you're going on Product Hunt and you go into like no code platforms, like you'll go down like a rabbit hole. But the problem is there's so many options, people get overwhelmed with different options out there, that then, like, when you're trying to create it, it just becomes a never ending cycle of trying to find them. Yeah. Great question. Yeah. Same thing. Truth. Are you working for Noah? Haven't seen this kind of action in the chat like this in a minute. But good. I'm like, do you use it? I would love to see, like, Truth, do you use it for your apps and everything? And also too, I will say that's a good thing, because FlutterFlow and only a few allow you to export, right? So if you do a couple no code options, not everyone allows you to export, right? So I personally don't like being locked in to a lot of different platforms. So that's why I'm always looking for options where I can export the code if I want to leave. UI Bakery used to do it back in the day, but they're not the greatest, I feel like. Is Tita easy to use and integrates with FlutterFlow? Yes, it does integrate. I would say if it's going to be for, say for instance, if you're testing, beta testing, doing a lot of different things, you're doing a lot of different variations. Um, that's why people use it a lot. Let's see where's, but depends on the exact use case. But a lot of people are want to use it because where in the world? Oh my goodness, it takes me forever to find it. I should have just saved the page. Um, it allows you to, well, there's a whole article about it. See comparison, yeah. You can do different design like variations if you're A/B testing very easily in your app. That's one of the main features of like Tita for you to see like which one is converting. So when you're, deciding on different things that could really make you tons of money or save you tons of money, you can do this very easily with Tita. So that's one of the huge things as well. Yeah, great question. Great question. Um, Also, too, coming up, if we're going to be doing more FlutterFlow videos, we're going to do also no code and AI videos of different things that we're using and what we're doing for building apps. There is a brand new channel that we're going to be launching, and we'll send you guys links coming up called DIY Media Makers, which is really how we use technology to build out small brands and for you as creators and educators to really showcase your talents so you can build your own brands, make more money, or get your dream job. That's what the new channel will be as well. So stay tuned to that. Remember, whatever the audience wants, whatever you would like, let me know in the comment section down below. We're going to be putting out more videos. If you like FlutterFlow, let me know if you want me to do other comparisons, other videos, or other platforms. Let me know. I'm interested in the channel. Thank you so much. We're going to be launching it, and we'll have it as a link coming up soon. So stay tuned. That's I'm really excited about that. We have the brand new studio in the warehouse. We're happy to showcase all that. So stay tuned. Again, more apps, all those things you want to do, please let me know. Again, if you want to join as a member, there's a link down below. You can join. But of course, we always want to give the best information out for you. And so let me know if you want more or anything like that. Yeah, new options with code freedom will always appreciate it. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Um, and there's going to also be a guide. We'll be putting it out of all of our top resources, different options, all of those different things. But again, as you always see, the reason I cut down on the versus videos is I want to show people how to do this with purpose and functionality. So if you're trying to create a very specific project, let me know in the comment section down below because we want to show you resources, who you should go to. If there's a better person, just like I said, if you want more in depth and wanting to know about APIs, connections with different repos and things like that, Paul No Code is your guy. So we'll be doing that very soon. So again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We're going to have more videos coming soon. And thank you so much. And have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.